I'd like to call Good evening. I'd like to call the October 14th Killam School Building Committee to order. We have people on Zoom, so we will do a roll call. Pat.
Here.
Sean. We'll come back to Sean. John. Chris.
Here.
Kirk.
Here.
Ed is not here, unless he is. Greg.
Here.
And Nancy.
Here.
Perfect. Thank you, everyone. Quick review of our agenda. We will start with public comment. We are going to reorganize the chair and vice chair positions of the committee. We'll have liaison reports. Colliers will do a financial review and a schedule review. LBA will talk about our exterior materials. We will approve the prior meeting minutes and then talk about future agenda items. So we'll start with public comment. And I don't think we have any guests.
Anything online?
Nope, nobody's online. Looks like
No public members.
just all committee members.
Right.
Good, we like boring meetings.
And Justin.
Okay, we will go to reorganization. So I'm gonna hand it off to Matt.
Thank you. Oh, I get the gavel and everything.
Yeah, I get the gavel.
Right.
Treat it nice.
Oh, thank you. I'm gonna remember how to do this. So, yes. So at this time, I'll open nominations for chair of the Killam Building Committee. So, any nominations for chair?
I'll
Yeah, Nancy?
make a nomination to elect Carla Nazaro as chair.
Any second?
I'll second that.
Great. So we have a nomination of Carla Nazara as chair. Would you accept that nomination, Carla?
Sure.
Any further nominations? No. So at this time, I will take a motion to close nominations and then we can vote to make it official. So could I have a motion to close nominations for chair?
Move to close the nomination for chair.
Okay. Yeah.
Second.
Great. So nominations are closed. I guess we have to take take the roll call. So Nancy,
Yes.
Pat,
Yes.
Carla,
Yes.
Chris,
Yes.
and who's online? I'm sorry.
Kirk is Kirk.
Kirk?
Yes.
And
Greg.
John?
Here as well.
Greg? Greg?
Yes.
Sean.
Sean?
Yes.
And
John.
John just stepped in the room.
I'm here, yes.
You wanna, we were just closing nominations for chair, and the only nominee was Carla, so I was calling a roll call. Did you want to vote on that?
Unless you want to jump in.
Okay. Okay, did you
Vote to close nominations.
want to cast a vote on that, John, or?
Yes. All right. Yes.
Yes, okay. Okay, so nominations are closed, so I think maybe one more vote just to make it official, to have Carla Nazara serve another term as chair. All in favor, I'll call the roll. So Nancy,
Yes.
Patrick,
Yes.
Carla,
Yes.
Chris,
Yes.
John.
Yes.
Hold on, let me do my list again. Sean,
Yes.
Greg,
Yes.
Kirk.
and Kirk.
Yes.
Okay, congratulations. So I'll turn the gavel back over to Carla for vice chair.
Awesome. Thank you.
Masterfully done.
Thank you. That's right.
And we will open nominations for a vice chair. Nancy.
Nominate Pat.
Okay.
Move to nominate Pat Tompkins.
So do you want to second that, Nancy?
Yes.
Okay. Seconded by Nancy. Any other nominations for vice chair? Seeing none. I don't think we have to close the vote, but we'll close the vote, right? Okay, so this is to close the vote for
Close the
vice,
nominations.
close the nominations for vice chair. Pat,
Yes.
Sean,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Chris,
Yes.
Kirk. Come back to Kirk. Greg,
Yes.
Nancy,
Yes.
and Carla, and Kirk.
Yes.
Thank you. And we will move to vote for Pat for vice chair. Pat,
Yes.
Sean,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Chris,
Yes.
Kirk,
I think that was
I think that was a yes. Greg,
Yes.
Nancy,
Yes.
and Carla, yes.
Yay,
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Yay.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone.
Okay.
Excited to serve another term.
I bet you are.
Okay, so we'll move to liaison reports.
I have a couple of reports. So the geotech, we've completed the analysis of the findings of the test well, and what we found is that our assumptions were right on the money. So we had assumed 44 wells, 800-foot wells, and after testing and the analysis, we need 44 wells. So that was a good guess, or yeah, it wasn't just a guess. Also, we held the abutters meeting. I can't remember the date. I believe we had
3 weeks ago.
six abutters attend, representing 3 properties, and it was very successful. I think that the property owners were all generally happy with what we talked about, which was we shared what the condition would be like between the school and their property. The only controversial issue that came up was the question of if there would be, if the city would be using the full right-of-way of Charles Street, which would be extending the, not a taking, which ultimately the town decided not to widen the road.
Right,
So-
at this point, right now, that's where we're at.
Yes, thank you. That's all,
September 25th was the date.
thank you.
It was a great meeting and everybody, all the abutters left happy, which is always a good sign.
And the tree landscape architect lady was very tree landscape architecty. Like she knew everything and anything about,
Was it Jade?
Yeah,
yeah, she like,
It is great.
she's
you
got a
could
very
listen to
nice
her
way.
for hours, talk
Yeah.
about trees, which is in landscaping, and
Yeah,
I think they're in good hands.
Another good thing was that we kind of took the temperature of where the abutters stand on the tree removals, because we're gonna need to remove almost all the trees on the site. And the temperature was good. They were like,
You're afraid.
these trees are not in good condition, they're gonna fall on my house, get rid of them.
Put out something.
So that was good news.
But I really feel like they felt heard by you and Jade, because when they were talking about their properties and what kind of landscape was gonna go there, they had options, so they were able to kind of voice what they were looking for and things like that, so you guys did a great job, as usual. Jane, you wanna talk? Sure.
Thank you, Carl. Madam Chair, my apologies. So a couple of things I wanted to talk to the committee about tonight. The first is parking for teachers and construction staff. We are working on a parking license with Christ the King Church, which is almost an abutting property. It's just there, and they have substantial parking. So our Director of Operations, Katie Gabriello, has begun those conversations. Well, Carla worked on some of those conversations originally. Katie has picked them up in a more official manner to work toward a contract with the church so that we can use that parking. We have some pieces that we need to negotiate out, and like if we're going to be able to accommodate all, I think we're talking about 150 spots, up to 150 spots at different times in the summertime. We won't have teachers parking there, so they have indicated 150 might be a little difficult to manage, so we really want to kind of work on some of those numbers. But they're great to work with, absolutely fantastic to work with. We've been talking to Jim Fitzgerald there, and he's fantastic. So it's now, the initial conversations are with legal to kind of make sure that we do it in the right way, and we'll bring back more details to the board. But they're looking for a little bit more than $10 per spot. So acquiring parking is a procurement process. This is a special type of procurement because it's really the only one that will work. So there's some workaround for that through 30B. And so we'll make that declaration to DCAM and so forth. But they would prefer a license agreement versus a lease. So that suits us, because if we do a lease, it has to go to town meeting to approve the lease. So we could either do like we could do like a license agreement initially if the committee really wanted to pursue a lease and then go further. But our understanding from the church is they would prefer to use a license agreement. So that's what we're drafting now, and that'll be under negotiation. And we believe that will come under the thresholds for 30B for parking for the land acquisition law. But it may go up because we need a little more parking than we initially thought we would. We originally think 70 spots.
We were talking about 70 spots for staff.
Yeah, and then with the construction, it's going to go up. But I think we're still under the threshold. Even if we're not, it's a special type of procurement. So that's kind of where we are right now. We'll bring more details back at the November meeting, hopefully with something ready to be signed. We'll have it in your packet, but it might not be till December. We're looking that we won't need to start using parking on site at the earliest February, I think, at the very earliest. And that's just for, any people that aren't on staff to go on site, because I'm not sure when we're not going to need parking on site, and we can't use the parking on site anymore, but I don't think it's going to be February. But that's the earliest that we're trying to secure it for. So the amount per spot right now is $10 per spot, which is a deal per month. So, that's a great spot. I understand that they would like to see if we will sweeten that deal a little bit better number. So that's where we are right now. And we'll bring back a total cost to the board after it goes through legal and we have a better sense. And I will continue to work with the executive leadership team to refine this and with the OPM as we go. So that's the first thing. And then the second thing I wanted to talk about is a clerk. Staff, particularly Joe Huggins, who is on the call tonight, are interested in hiring as a 1099 employee, a clerk to help the facilities department manage the construction process on site. So this is somebody who would be on site every single day. Because we are doing 2 major building projects at the same time, that are going at the same time. And because we are not hiring any new staff, permanent benefited staff, our facilities department is already understaffed. And so Joe and his deputy, Kevin Cabuzi, are just fantastic. We've all worked with them a lot, but we need to have more on-site staff that report to the town. So we are looking for a clerk position. Mike and Justin have been gracious in helping us define what this will look like, and we'll be bringing that to the MSBA for a conversation soon. We were going to have a conversation, I think, last week, but the timing didn't work out for all of the members who needed to be there, so we're going to have that conversation in the future. Tomorrow. I missed that email because I haven't checked email all day because I've been in meetings from 9 a.m. to 5:30. So, and then now. So great news. Thank you very much. I'm really glad. So those are my updates to the board.
The executive team keeps talking about these things, and we want to make sure that we keep bringing things back to the committee as well, even though sometimes they take a long time to kind of sort through.
How much is the position? Roughly?
Over the course of the contract, so it's $70 an hour. Initially, it'll be part-time, to go over kind of design documents. And then once construction comes, it will be a full-time position. I think it roughs out to about $300,000 over the life of the contract.
That's 3 years-ish.
How does this position dovetail with the OPM's full-time inspector or whatever you have on the job?
So that was some of the questions we initially had, and we met with Joe and Kevin and Jane and the team to understand that and let them understand what we do. So
Yes.
we have a full-time clerk of the works, if you will, or a site representative is what we call them, on site. Whenever the construction's happening, we'll have somebody on site. They'll be in the trailer. In addition, our project managers such as Justin or our APM will be there from time to time. So we could have as many as 1 to 3, 4 people in there on any given day, but always at least the one. We had that discussion with Joe about the position that they're looking for. So this would not be trying to duplicate duties we're doing. It's to supplement it, to have the town's voice heard, to have the town's support there. We typically, on a project like this, would have, we'll have a weekly OAC meeting, owner, architect, contractor meeting. This person will attend those meetings. They will also be there to provide input. When we're getting into PCO review, proposed change order review, we as the OPM and Lee's team as the design team will be taking the first stab at that. But this person will be able to understand what's going on and report back to this committee a little bit more succinct about what's been happening, and it allows us to not have to have long meetings necessarily sitting here reviewing changes, detailed changes, things of that nature. So I think from that perspective, that's what we're looking at. I will let you know that we have seen this done in other districts. Where Colliers is doing it right now in April, and they actually hired an assistant, a part-time assistant facilities director there because they didn't have a Kevin equivalent, if you will.
Right.
And so they hired somebody on staff that they're planning to keep on staff long term. But it's very similar. Other than that, it's very similar to what you're doing here, and it is pretty common, especially in towns and districts that have not only this project going on, but other projects and then capital improvements and all the different things that you guys are doing to maintain your building fleet.
No, you get it, and that's exactly right. Thank you for mentioning that. It does happen in other towns. We're not unique, but we do have a pretty lean operating structure here, and so we think that this will be an appropriate augmentation to staff.
I think one of the things that we had talked about too is we can work on kind of, I'll call it a work plan, kind of projecting some hours out so that we can bring that back to the committee and they can kind of see what we're looking at long term. And I think once we get past the NSBA meeting, which I think should be relatively quickly, a relatively simple meeting tomorrow, we'll be able to do that with you guys.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Jane.
Thank you.
Kirk, I don't mean to put you on the spot, and it's okay if you don't have an answer. Do you have any thoughts on the finance working group?
Yeah, so unfortunately, I wasn't able to get a meeting together before today, but I emailed Justin some questions, and Justin just got back to me. It might be best if we just go over those couple of questions now. The invoices and everything, it all seemed to be in order to me. I did have some questions about the amendment to the LBA contract for soil pre-characterization. So Justin, I don't know if you want to just address some of my questions now or how you want to do that.
I think as we go, we'll kind of cross all those items as we go through the financial report instead of jumping around. Maybe we'll just start with the financial report, and then as we get through those items, we can address those questions.
Yeah, that sounds fine.
Right. I know you've got that group going for the Center for Active Living. So make all your mistakes with that project and then you can correct it for us. That would be great. So thank you. Thanks, Kirk. Kirk's on both.
How do you know we've got one going for the other project?
Because my husband's on it.
I wonder.
And I asked him about it tonight.
He
He saved a call that I didn't have to call Pat. So that was our dinner conversation.
A quick lesson there. Mike's on that committee, he's on multiple committees. The reason he's on so many committees is because he didn't show up at a meeting.
For one
So little word to the wise around here, if you choose not to show up at a meeting, you may be volunteered for a subcommittee.
That's why I came tonight.
You were
I
nominated.
shouldn't have been here, my wife's in hospital.
Oh.
And she had her hip replaced today, so
Oh.
it was the PACU or here, and I couldn't think which one.
See how that shook out, huh?
I was over here working on my English accent, but I couldn't get it. That's why I had to move there. Sorry.
Okay.
I can't be you.
Okay. Any other liaison report? Okay, we'll move on to the financial review.
All right, let me know if I'm speaking too loud and blowing everyone's hair back, because I'm not really sure what the volume is like in this room. I can't remember how it sounds with people being remote, but just give me a heads up if I'm talking too loud or too quietly. So, project budget. Obviously, we have no construction, no contractors on board yet, so that's still at 0. We have our contingencies down below. Right now, our contingency is at 5. Our soft cost contingency is at 5. I'm sorry, this is our construction contingency is at 5 million, still 5,076,069. And our soft cost contingency, owner's contingency is at 1.2 million, 1,257,726. So our project budget with our internal any project budget adjustments, we only have one. This is in regards to the amendment that LBA has put forward, the one that Kirk has mentioned. There's 2 of them right now. One of them was covered by the budget that we have in place, and this one is actually covered from other architectural basic services to cover the geotech amendment, which is Amendment 19 for the $113,000.
So Justin, on that one, we're moving money from one architectural line to the other, not using contingency. Just
right. So this is our commitments. These are, so for Amendment 19, maybe we'll come back to this because that's a little bit more of an in-depth conversation. But for LBA's Amendment number 20, this is for additional tree survey services that was requested by the tree warden during one of our design meetings. This is for $7,623, and then we have another commitment. It's a small one for $140, but this is basically the remaining amount for cleaning, complete cleaning codes services with the modular refit fit ups. So right, thank you. The original amount was $3,500, the original commitment, but after all said and done, they came back at $3,640. So the 140 is just the remaining commitment amount to offset that cost. Thanks, Mike.
We're going to come back and review those individually later, Justin, is that right? Or
Yeah, just so we can keep going, get the other stuff out of the way. This is our invoice tabs. We have one invoice for GNAP Architects for $1,700. We have our Colliers Project Leaders invoice for $30,252. And then we have our LBA invoice broken down, but they total to $484,745. And then we have the 2 invoices below, which was the remaining invoices for Complete Cleaning Co. And I didn't do the math, but that is $2,740 in total. So this is our cash flow. Right now, we're in line with where we projected. We're a little under billed. It's better shown in this graph below, but basically, when we do these reports, we don't consider anything that has been officially approved in these reports. That's why we're a little under billed. That's why that red line is below the green. But once we factor in the values for the invoices from this meeting, and then I think we have some other invoices that almost made it to this meeting, but will be in the next. We'll bring that red line right up in line with that green line, pretty much.
So just one thing on that, on the invoices, what we've been showing every month, I'm gonna scroll back up to the invoices here for a second, is if I zoom out here, you can see this is approval date right here, this column. And everything that's white is the things that we're voting on tonight. We haven't been putting a date there because they haven't been officially approved. But we've been talking about it, not just on this job, but on a few jobs, that when we're coming to this meeting, if we put the date in there, then those actually get added into the cash flow. So like our cash flow is artificially low by about $500,000 tonight, because those are gonna be approved tonight, and then those immediately go in for this duration. So I think going forward, we're gonna leave those white, but we're probably gonna put today's date, like the meeting date in there, with the assumption that it's approved. If they're not approved, obviously we'll redact that. We can correct it later, but that'll just show you your cash flow a little more accurately, I think, if that works for everybody.
Yeah, our as Mike was saying, our spreadsheet, our Excel sheet that tracks everything, once you put the data in, it reflects in the cash flow, but until you do that, it doesn't. But we're gonna start putting the data in. Any questions so far? Okay.
All right. So I think we have to approve the commitments before we approve the invoices, because one of the invoices is reliant on a commitment. So do we want to go back and talk about the commitments now, and then we can move on to schedule after we go through the financials?
Sure.
All right. Mike, do you want me to explain 19, or do you want to explain that 19?
I can run through 19 if you want. Sure. I think Justin already mentioned, I'm gonna kind of work from the bottom up here. Justin already mentioned $140. That's just a little bit of cleaning up, that the complete cleaning, they're doing the work on the modules. They came in a little bit over the initial estimate. And so we're looking to make a new commitment for $140 there. The second one, the 7623, that is for we have a survey of the trees, but we didn't have the species of each type of tree identified. And we've been asked to do that, so that's to go out to do that. I think when that initially came in, it was a little bit higher, and we were able to work with Jenny and Lee and their team and make sure that we're getting everything that the town needs, but not overspending on it. And we were able to actually, I think we're doing that price is about 10 or 15% less than where we were initially thinking. So we are taking a look at that and trying to make sure we have that. But that is basically for the balance of the surveying of the trees, specifically the species type, and also the condition. Are they a good tree, or are they a tree that's in failing health, things of that nature. So they're going to go out there and do that, and that's a requirement of the permitting process, basically.
Can I say something about that? I ask DPW or whoever it is, where does it show in our zoning bylaws or town general bylaws that anything but street shade trees are under this requirement? Because it's only the street shade trees that trigger any kind of public hearing. If this were a developer that was working on this site, they could take all the trees down and nobody would be able to say something about it if it's not in conservation and if it's not in any other protected wetlands. So why now does the town have to pay somebody to come in and tell us what these trees are so we can take them down? I don't understand that requirement, and I don't understand why we need a public hearing on trees that are not street shade trees. I'm sure there are street shade trees that we're taking down, we're gonna have to have a public hearing for. And I think the town has a pretty good idea of what those trees are, because there is a record of them. So why are we identifying all the rest of the trees we need to take down for this project and spending $7,600 of town taxpayer money doing that? I just question where that requirement came from. Because I haven't ever seen that on any of the projects that I've worked on.
Does it have to do with public property versus private?
Why? What difference does it make? It's, the state requires public shade trees, which are defined as trees along a public way. These are trees that are not along a public way. These are trees on the property. And any other developer would be able to go in there and take these trees down if they're not sensitive to conservation.
Is this happening on,
No, because conservation let us not have to do that. We are in conservation.
Yeah, it's like, it's a different situation because
situation.
everything is in the conservation
Their
zone of
control.
influence, in their
Rural
control.
Isn't.
So where
But we
Killam
gave
is
them a
not.
bunch of land in offset to offset the tree taking down. It seems very odd to me that we are
that's a
in this
great question.
position.
Yeah.
of
Did you
having
say
to
you
spend
asked
this money.
DPW already, that first part, or you're asking
I'm
now?
asking if anybody
No.
knows why,
Okay.
and I have not
I-
talked to DPW.
I don't think there's
about this.
anything in the general bylaw on it. It may be in the
Nothing.
zoning bylaw, so I'd have to take a closer look at zoning on it.
Yeah, no.
Are we not exempt from all of it anyway, and good practice is for us to do it, but in this instance, for us to save $8,000 to acknowledge trees that we're cutting down anyway seems, to Nancy's point, kind of pointless.
I'm not familiar with any of it.
We can generally exempt ourselves, but we don't because we don't feel it's good practice.
We're knocking the trees down though anyway.
The
Yeah, no, I know,
the
yeah.
state
No,
is
we
very
could look-
clear that it's the public shade trees.
Right.
Those are the
Right,
ones
yeah,
on the
for
street
sure.
that have to be looked at. And I don't know how many we're taking down. I can't remember on that plan. Probably all of them. So there probably will be a public hearing for those particular
Mm-hmm.
trees, but we already know what those trees are.
Yeah, no, Mike Hannaford knows every street tree in
Yeah,
town,
there's a record of them actually.
and he
yeah.
has a record of every single one.
Yeah, it's the trees, I don't know where, I was in that meeting, and I know
not
he said
familiar
we
with it.
needed to identify this, and at the time I was thinking, why are we? Is it
Do
because
we?
we have a public land? But
So-
I don't think so.
I would think the rationale for why you might do it is because you might want to look at, if you have some really good healthy trees, you might want to be able to save those. You might want to direct the design to save those. But I would say with our project, that's not really an option. It's not like we can, like, if you were a developer building a bunch of houses, you can move a house a little bit to the left or a little bit to the right to save a tree or two, and you might be able to do something like that. But with what we're doing, I don't think we really have it. So I think it's a good question. I think what I might recommend here, because we do want to try and keep things
Yes,
moving,
I
is
don't have a problem.
maybe approving it contingent on us following back with the DPW and getting a confirmation from them of that it is required. And if it's required, we'll do it. If it's not required, then we'll come back and report to you that we didn't have to.
I have no problem with the amount. It's a lot of work to go out there. It just seems like it's foolish work that we don't need. And I'm
Yes.
questioning the need for spending that money.
Genuinely, correct me if I'm wrong, I think virtually every tree that we're gonna do is coming down, right?
Yeah, after we shared a preliminary plan with Mike Hannaford, he was kind of taken aback. I don't think that he understood that we were planning to take down almost every tree. So after that initial meeting, we kind of went back and looked at whether we might be able to save some trees by not regrading in some areas. And I think I'm just kind of speculating that this may come out of, Mike Hannaford wears these two hats, right? He maintains these trees, like these are town trees. And then he has these tree hearings. We haven't pushed back on him to say, why is this required? I think it's a great point, and I think Mike's proposal to approve the fee and then have that conversation with Mike and kind of revisit, what is really required in terms of having a tree hearing. And the other question is the project required to replace the trees? Because part of the tree hearing is that, you have to replace the same number of caliber inches of tree that are removed or pay into a tree fund if you're not able to do that.
Right, and I didn't see
And if we're
anywhere.
looking at, is that the standard for every tree on the site, or just the street trees?
And I don't see anything in our bylaws or in any general bylaw. Now, if you were to go to Wayland or to Weston, or Arlington even, they do have that in the side setbacks of a property.
Yeah.
There are very strong restrictions on that, but not in Reading, we have not gotten there yet.
The other thing that I'll just say to add to this is that we're not being ostentatious, but we do have quite a few trees and bushes and landscaping features going back in. So like, it's not like we're clear cutting a site and then leaving it bare and barren. It's going to be properly done and beautiful, and you're gonna, if we remove street trees, new street trees will be going back in and
But
you know.
we may not have the required caliber inches that we took down.
Right.
Well, it depends on what you're counting. If you're
Exactly.
counting street trees, we'll have more than the
Sure.
caliber of any street tree that's gonna go down. 'Cause
Sure.
There are a lot of trees going in
Right.
on this site. But if you wanna count every tree on this site,
Exactly.
and that's where I'm thinking, I don't think it's going in the right direction, but
When is it critical that these trees be identified? It doesn't seem to be a time-critical item.
Well, there are trees that will be removed, some of which are street trees on Haverhill Street, if we do the early site package in January.
I mean, within the site boundary.
Within the site boundary.
So we're gonna have a discussion in a little bit on 113,000, and part of that is about the early package. So if the early package is done, right now, we're tentatively looking at early package work getting going in January. So we could be cutting trees in January. So we need to have permits in place prior to that, and this is right now potentially a requirement for the permitting. So I think from that perspective, if it needs to be done, it probably needs to be done pretty soon. If it doesn't need to be done, then we can always push it off. And after the discussion tonight and maybe a follow-up, if the early earthwork package isn't done, we'll have a little more flexibility with that. But that's going to be a teaser for what's going to come in a minute.
Okay. So do we want Jenny to reach out? You guys can reach out?
I'll reach out.
Okay, great.
I agree that the town should talk to the town.
Yes, yes, we will.
Nancy, thank you.
So do we want to take a vote on those two first, and then I can talk about the 113, because that's probably a little bit longer discussion, or?
Sure.
Yeah. I just don't want to forget those.
Sure.
do you need a motion?
Please.
You go for it?
You go for it.
All right, I'll make a motion to approve the amendment, the Amendment MSA 40-751 for $140 to Complete Cleaning Company, and to approve LBA Amendment 20, which is line 30-235 for $7,623, with the caveat that is approved contingent upon a discussion with the town to determine if we actually need to spend that money.
Is there a second?
Second, that's good.
There's a second. Any discussion? Okay, seeing none. Pat?
Yes.
Sean?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Chris?
Yes.
Kirk?
Yes.
Greg?
Yes.
Nancy?
Yes.
And Carla, yes. Thank you. Okay,
Right.
Mike.
So the next one here is for the 113,806. This is LBA Amendment 19, and this is for soil testing. This initially started off, I think, almost at $250,000, and we've got it down to this value. I want to give you a little explanation of kind of where we were and how we got it to here, and then have a little discussion on it. So when we first talked about the early package, we talked about exporting approximately 40,000 yards of soil based off of the soil borings, mostly focused on the building area, but we were also kind of looking at that whole, I'm going to say, right half of the page, where the building would be, where the bus driveway would be on the bottom half of the page, where the loading dock ramps and driveways would be on the top half of the page. And we did it as an order of magnitude to just see how much soil was there. And with 40,000 yards coming off and 10,000 yards coming back on, I made the recommendation that we should consider an early package there to help keep us on schedule. Big picture here, our schedule, and I can pull the schedule up and if anybody has questions. we're bidding this next spring to basically award it around June, the base contract. If we go for 18 months from then, that gets us to December of the following year. 18 months is a good time for a typical project of this size. But when we add geothermal wells in, we thought we might need a little bit more time. And we thought if we could do the early package, we save a little time on the earthwork, we take a little bit more time on the geothermal. The 18 months is still, is potentially the right duration. The reason why we were focused on that is if we can get the building complete by December, it allows us to target a February move-in for the students. That 6 weeks gives us a couple of things. It gives us a little cushion if something unforeseen were to come up, that we're not immediately impacting the move. It also gives us a chance to move furniture in, to train staff, to work through punch lists before the staff and the students get into the building, and just be ready so that we're confident we're moving into the building that's ready to be there. The benefit of getting the students moved in is it gets them out of the building they're in right now and into the new building as soon as we can. But it also allows us, from a construction standpoint, to start removing that old building. And if we can do that in the winter time and start working on that, the plan would be to remove that building, get all the earthwork done for the parking lots and the fields and things like that, and basically be closed by the fall of that year. If we waited and say move the students at the end of the school year and after they exit, we're starting demolition then, and our construction of the new fields and the new parking lots and everything are going to run into that winter time period, and it's going to carry through the winter into the next spring. So by losing that 6 months, we have 2 or 3 months worth of work that kind of gets paused over the winter, and it just extends out the impact to everybody. So that's what we're, big picture, that's why we thought the early package would be good. But where we're at right now is we're looking at 15,000 yards instead of 40,000, because what we've done is we've gone back and we've limited the area from basically the entire right side of that site, if you will, to just the building footprint. And what we did is we actually asked the design team and their estimators to go back, review the building footprint, expand the footprint by about 5 feet in both directions so that we have enough space for footings and formwork and things like that, and then do your one-to-one slope up from there. So that's what we did, and the 40,000 went to 15,000.
And that's because we only need to remove that crummy dirt because of bearing, because it's not the right bearing soil. We need to bring in fill, so we don't have to do it other places other than under the building.
Under the building, exactly. And then to take it further, I think we had some discussions with Pat, and Pat had mentioned, I think, John, you may have given some information about an old pond potentially out there. So we started looking even more closely at the geotechnical information that we have. And what we're noticing is that it's called fill material, I'll say on the southern half of the site, but it's just general fill material over existing soils. But on the northern half of the site, we have several locations where we have normal or natural occurring soils, and then we have either subsoil or topsoil, and then we have fill, and then we have the real topsoil, the actual topsoil. And that topsoil and subsoil is that's the problem soil. So we've had some discussions with the geotech, and some of the fill that we've actually done some analysis on it. Some of it actually meets structural grade fill as it is, even just out there. And the fill that doesn't meet structural grade is very close to it. So it's certainly good for an ordinary borrow on the lower side. So we started having discussions about, do we try to save some of that material? Maybe it just has to be recompacted or compacted in place. And where that's going is maybe that 15,000 yards isn't 15,000 yards. Maybe it's 10,000 yards of good material, and there's only a few thousand yards of that subsoil that we would have to get rid of. By doing an early package, we're really saying we're going to take all 15,000 yards off. And if we had a general contractor there and they had the option, they might do a different means and methods. They might try to not bring off as much. And we might even, as we're continuing to develop this, we might be able to get a better sense of that, because I think right now we have no indications of any contamination or any kind of bad soils out there right now. This $113,000 that we're talking about is to do further testing, to either confirm that or confirm that we do have, lead levels or different things. Maybe there was an oil tank we found, where oil leaked in from an oil tank. There's no indication of that right now, but we're looking to potentially do that. And the reason why we would have to do that is the soil has to come off, it has to go somewhere. And where it goes, the people want to know what they're bringing to us. So that's really what this testing is for. So the testing right now is assuming 15,000 yards. It's assuming one test for every 500 cubic yards of material coming off. And it's pretty extensive, but what we've talked about, and we actually asked, do we really need to do one every 500? Could we do one every 5,000 or things? What the answer came back is pretty much the regulations in Massachusetts have gotten stricter and stricter. When I first got into the business, we just dug dirt and we brought it to the next site and we moved on. But now everybody needs to have bills of lading and understanding, exactly what's in the soils and everything. And it really has gotten pretty difficult to move soils around in the state of Massachusetts. But it's looking out for the best interest of everybody. We don't want our contaminated soils, if we had it, to go somewhere else and cause problems with somebody else. So the geotech and the LSP said if there was another site that we had, a town site that we could bring the soil to, we could do a lot less testing. If there was someplace else, if the other project in town needs a little fill, maybe we could make a deal, something like that. But I think where we're at this point is we'd like to have an additional follow-up meeting on the early package to talk, kind of talk this through maybe a little more detail. We're happy to have everybody involved with it. I'm going to suggest or maybe make a nomination for Pat and John to be part of that, because I think Pat has been a little bit involved already, and John, certainly with your expertise, we'd like to kind of get your thoughts on it and see, are we going down the right path with this early package, or should we really think about pausing it? And if we're going to go down the path with the early package, I think we need to do this 113 as soon as possible. If we're not going to go down the path with the early package, I still think we're going to have to do some testing. Do we do $113,000 worth of testing right now, or do we maybe do one for every 2,000 yards or every 5,000 yards and see what that gets us? And then maybe we do some additional testing from there. We'll have a little more time to do that, if you will. Kind of a lot of information there, but I don't know. I'll pause for a second just to see if anybody has any questions before we move on.
A couple of questions.
Sure.
One, when and how is it determined? So we have a site where we're going to export material from the site. When and how is it determined that we have no indication of any contaminants, no historical knowledge, nothing on site? When and who decides that, okay, we need to test this material? I know getting back to Nancy's comment, if we're the developer down the road, we're digging a hole and we're exporting material, bring it back to our yard or bringing it to another site. If I do an addition on my house tomorrow, they're going to dig a hole. We're not going to have an LSP out doing that. And where is that break point? And I've been involved in other large-scale municipal projects where I'm almost positive there's been no wholesale testing every 500 yards. So
Isn't it, I'm going to try myself, but isn't it basically where you're bringing it needs the test done? So if you bring it to a dump or one of these different places, they need a test to show if they can go there, or it has to go to a different place for contaminated. Is that the case?
I was going to say, I kind of asked the same question, Pat, and I think Lee's answer is, the answer was, when you bring it somewhere, they may ask you for that. And I said, well, that's assuming that it's contaminated, it has to go somewhere. Because, if there's 3 landfills, landfill 1 takes a certain level of contamination, landfill 2 takes the next level up, landfill 3 takes the next level up, but they charge different rates. So I said, but that's starting from a point of assuming that we're contaminated already. And, if we're not contaminated, to your point, I just had a pool dug this summer, and they dug, 2 truckloads of dirt out of there, and it was trucked away. I didn't have an LSP on site, but there was also no indication that I had an oil well or an oil tank in my backyard or something. If they were digging and they found smells in the dirt, or there's So we could wait and see what the testing, see what happens as the earthwork goes out, but I guess the question there is, I think $113,000 is a lot to pay right now. Does that mean we shouldn't do some testing? Maybe we should do something, but maybe not that level. But I think what we're trying to do here is the penny of prevention versus a pound of cure kind of a thing. Like right now we have an unknown.
Pretty big penny.
It is. Well, that's why I'm saying 113 is not what, but right now we have a complete unknown, if you will, or a virtually complete unknown. If we start to understand a little bit better, the risk profile goes down a little bit, and we have to balance that risk versus reward, right? Like, if we're spending a lot, all this money, we could wait and have the LSP out there while the earthwork's happening. And if we run into issues, we run into smells, we run into a visual inspection, something that looks off when you do the testing. But the risk there is that we then stop project, or delay the project potentially, because we have to test it at that point, and we have to go through the processes. So, yeah.
My understanding was that this soil has to go somewhere, and wherever it goes, whether it's to the contractor's yard and then to another project, or if it goes to some kind of landfill facility, wherever it ends up, those people want to know that it's not contaminated soil. So according to our LSP, this is an industry standard, 500 testing, one sample per 500 cubic yards, that would allow you to, would give anyone a sense of confidence that this is clean soil.
Now, all of this really ties into whether or not to do an early package.
No.
Doesn't it?
No.
So you've separated it.
Yeah, well, test, like if we have to test, if your LSP is telling us we have to test the soil that's coming off, we have soil coming off, so we're going to have to test it. But I think, back to Pat's initial question, I think what you said, Jenny, that's what I've been saying. If we're bringing it to a landfill, we have to have it tested. But if it's clean soil, like if I grade my yard out tomorrow, I don't say, oh, do you have a bill of lading showing where that soil came from and that it was tested? And I just assume that company is done their due diligence and they're not giving me dirty soil, I guess. But
what does a contractor put in terms of risk for if they're just given a clean slate saying, okay, here, you're assuming the risk? Because isn't that part of this discussion here, is who's taking on the risk? What is it going to do to a bid, especially when it's a competitive bid too? How much information is typically supplied in the bid documents?
And I'll just say that we have done a composite test from the borings that we've already done,
Sure.
And everything was clean.
Sure.
Okay.
Right. Everything so far has been
So far.
clean.
But it's a very small sampling. It's 40,000 yards or 30,000 yards coming off the site overall.
Sure.
And we've done one test, if you will. So, but it was a composite from various. It wasn't just like one hole. It was from all the holes.
So I just want to be really clear. If we do an early package, say we don't do this, let's take that off the table. We use what we have right now. We put it out there, and of course they might put in, if there was an early package, that particular site contractor might put in some money for contingency to deal with this kind of thing. They'll have to do testing as they move all the stuff. They'll have to do it in time, while they're doing it, right?
They're never going to do the testing. It's your soil.
If we require them to, if we include
It's our soil, so we would have to do the testing.
if we include a soil management, protocol in the specification.
Oh, so we'll have to do that testing at that time, not beforehand. I'm just confused about don't we have to do something sometime? Or if you don't do the early package and you give it all to a contractor a little later, they're responsible for all of it. They hire a site guy, he comes in. It still has to be tested as they're trying to truck it out and all of that. And that money might exist, but it happens then in the construction budget or in the soft cost back then. It seems to me like a lot of that money, or it's true that you may not spend all of it, but it's probably gonna get spent sometime during the course of this project. I just don't know when. Now I'm naive, so I'm just bringing it up kind of like now or later, do you wanna do it? But if we put it out, if we do bid out for an early site package, we just give them you're saying that we could just give them the information we have now and then deal with it when it happens.
Well, I think if we're waiting to do the testing later, the time to do the testing has to be accounted for. You know,
Somewhere.
Yeah.
So if you do it early, you could just do okay. I just wanted to bring it up because I think it exists regardless of where it happens, but maybe not as much.
Maybe one other thing just to add to this to maybe make it a little easier to understand, because I didn't really understand why we need to do the testing if it's clean, but one of the things that came back is that the fact that it's fill material, they said if we had this geotech report and all the material was exactly the same, like it was all identified as natural soil in place, always been there, we wouldn't need to do any testing. But because it's fill material over a certain level, that's when they say, well, it's fill material, where did that fill come from? That's when the LSP was saying. So now I will tell you.
So the answer to my question, my original question, is the fact that it's fill material is what's triggering the 500, the one test per 500 yard requirement and turning it into a regulated site.
That's
everything needs to be controlled. If we test it, if we go through the testing process, everything's going to be less than RCS1, and it's going to have to go to like an unlined landfill because the requirements are so strict. If you dug a hole in my backyard, that's probably what you would find.
Yeah.
But you don't need to. There are, like, I've worked on sites where there's no environmental testing done. Material is leaving the site, coming back on the site.
Yeah.
Again, if you dig a pool in your backyard, you're not required to do this without evidence of.
Yeah.
But I would say if you're bringing fill to your yard, you are required, you need a permit to show that that's clean fill.
Okay. Yep.
The other thing I will say is looking at the.
So when does that fill get tested?
Yeah,
It's like
well,
somewhere in that,
some site has it and you can bring it back.
Right. So what we learned is that when you're removing this fill, if it's going to someone who's gonna resell it,
You need to have that.
they need to know what the testing is, right? Otherwise, they don't wanna take it because it might be contaminated, and then it's just a burden.
But don't you leave that up to the contractor? Right? They're gonna determine, so to speak, where.
Well, and that's where I think this bigger discussion happens. Like, I was at the point a month ago or a week ago that we were taking, not a week ago, a month ago, that we were taking 40,000 yards off. And that's why we were really pushing. But now that it's 15 and now that we've looked at it even more, like, if we do test it and we do have some sort of contamination level, the first thing the LSP does is says, try to minimize what you have to export, right? Because it's saving your cost. So we started looking at that gravel that was above, that fill material. And it's really a good structural gravel.
It is, yeah.
A couple of pieces of it, they had a little bit of a higher silt content, like I think 11 or 12 instead of under 10. And there was one that just missed the number 4 sieve by like 1%, you know, very close to structural gravel. Yeah. And so I started saying, well, if that's the case, maybe we should be designing our spec to say, you have to remove the subsoil down below, but everything else we want to be left on site.
So this is in layers.
Yes.
Right.
That was one of my early questions to the geotech. Is can we reuse the filled soil and shove it around the site, you know?
And his report actually says you can.
Yeah, that's right.
And you know, the one thing that I think he cautioned is that we have a very small site, and if you're going to truck that soil off to a stockpile somewhere and then truck it back on, if it's clean material, that trucking cost is going to be more than just getting rid of it.
His thought was that it would not be cost effective to reuse, but we've actually, in our 60%, we've asked the estimators to estimate that approach.
That's great. So we just released the 60% documents, so we're getting estimates on that. So we're We're gonna have a little bit better information on that in the next week or two.
And the last one is that, it's gonna sound crazy, but the town has a stockpile or a pit where they like to put this kind of
That's the
material.
question. Does the
And
town?
you bring it there
Yeah.
and you test some of it and you're pretty confident in it and you take hold of it and it's yours. And then we bring in other stuff for our, you know what I mean, it's just.
Yeah.
I
Are
don't
there
know
not
if
some
that's
gravel pits
kosher.
over at the town forest which need to be filled?
In the town forest?
Near the town forest?
Oh, near the town forest. I'd have to.
That was the original gravel source for the town, wasn't it? Way back.
I have no comment, I don't know about that before my time, but
We could look into it though. So.
The only other thing I'll say,
town
and
forest,
I don't know
taking
that there's any way to prove it or disprove it, but when I looked at the existing grading drawings, the old ones that showed the pond, there was an existing structure on site,
It was.
and it was on top of a hill. My guess is that fill, they just pushed that hill into the pond. So it was probably naturally occurring soil from that site that was just pushed, regraded on that site. I don't think there's a way that we can prove that, but that's kind of like, I don't really believe that there's a lot of fill from somewhere else that was brought in here. I literally think they just pushed that hill into the pond and kind of.
We might have breaks.
It could have, the old foundation of that structure in there or something.
John probably remember better than me. I don't think there was evidence of that. It didn't look like urban fill.
No.
It didn't, it looked like good
It
material.
had good material.
Yeah.
All right.
And it was, yeah.
Are we planning to bear on this soil? Like,
The area that we're focusing on is within the building footprint.
It has to be, it's.
so we're gonna take out everything, but if this is effectively meets the sieve for structural fill, is it too loose?
Well, so that was the question. I think Majid, the geotech, said he wouldn't mind leaving it on site, but he'd want it to be brought back in 12-inch lifts. And I said, my question to you on that is if this material was put in 10 years ago or 5 years ago, and it was just dumped in a 5-foot pile and left because it's a field, I might be worried about that. I don't know what your thoughts are. It's been there for 70 years. Even if it was dumped in a 5-foot lift, it's settled for 70 years or 50 years. Like, I don't know that you're going to get much better compaction than what you've got out there right now on that. Other than where the subsoil is, you're going to get rid of that in the topsoil. Yeah. But I think on the southern half, I don't know that. Like, if I was the site contractor, I'd probably run a roller over it and see what happens. And if it doesn't look like if it's moving too much, if it's pretty good, I'd probably be like, it's good to go. But
The only fear is if there's organic materials in it.
But that was not his assessment.
that was not Majid's. That was not Majid's.
Yeah. So, I mean, that would be what they worry about, is that it's rotting in there, there's air.
But there isn't.
There are some areas.
The northern half we have that, but not in the southern half.
Yeah, so there you have it. Okay.
So just a quick one, 15,000 yards is taking everything under the building footprint down to I assume it's glacial till.
Correct.
All the fill material, and then we're gonna bring back in import structural
I
fill.
don't think it's down to the till. It's not.
It's down to the naturally occurring
Natural
soil.
soil,
The
yeah.
natural
soil.
like 4 or 5 feet or whatever.
Yeah, it's 2 to 3 in the low end, 4 to 5 average. I think it's 10 or 11 on like kind of the test pit that's the closest to the existing building is the one that has the deepest problem. So like, because we were looking at that, do we need to do some sort of supportive excavation? And we think some sort of temporary support can be probably managed there. But yeah,
The soils here are 10 times better than the soils of the other project.
Yeah.
Regardless, I mean.
Well, I
We're bearing directly on those.
Well, yes.
Maybe we can bring these over. I mean, really.
No, sorry?
Can we bring,
Well,
Killam over?
Just thinking about that.
yeah, that's not a
We,
bad idea.
we did
Give it a
mention
price.
that at the meeting of the other project,
Yeah,
because my view is we need to strip off 3 or 4 feet of fill
Okay.
over there. And
I know where we can get some.
cheap.
Yeah.
so I think if we took some of that fill off, some of that overburdened fill, maybe gave it to the recal project, that you could give yourself enough space and enough leg room that you could then, like if you broke that site into say thirds, take the bottom third off, and then you move the middle third to the bottom and in compacted lifts, and then you move the back end to the middle, and you kind of, you've got it good. So I think there's going to be a little bit of excavation that has to come out of there anyway, but you strip the topsoil first, and again, this is maybe the details that we were thinking would be great to kind of hash out with actually the drawing up on the screen, or taking a look at it.
The advantage of not doing a earthworks patching is the contractor does all these machinations. He thinks with himself. He does these things. You never really hear about it. He just does it. We're doing the contractor's work now. We're trying to think, how would a contractor have?
And if the contractor has a place to get rid of it, that place might need one test every 5,000 yards or every 2,000 yards rather than every 500. And I think the other thing is that they might take it from the hillside that is naturally occurring, and we don't need to test it because it's not fill. Where all the trees are growing, for example, or something like that. So those were the things that have been running through my mind for the last week or so, and so that's why we wanted to have a discussion. But I guess back to this number here, and we have to make a decision. We collectively, or you have to make a decision with our input. Do we want to do an early package or not? And if we do want to move forward with the early package, then we really need to get this testing going. If we decide collectively that we don't, and I'm not saying we have to decide tonight, but if we decide collectively that the early package is not the way to go, or that we want to have a little more flexibility.
Is there a cost premium for the early package apart from this testing? Is there a cost premium nevertheless? Sure. That we can identify.
We're looking at. We're assuming right now. The early package, when we were doing 40,000 yards, we assumed 6 months, and we thought that would save us 2 months' time on the back end. So you're paying general conditions, general requirements for 6 months, but it's GCs, GRs to a site work contractor only to save 2 months potentially, or of general contractor, general requirements. So I would say we thought it was a wash. I think with the 15,000 yards, that 6 months, we thought could go to 5 months. It's not like you can cut it in half, because they still have to set up fencing. They still have to set up hay bales and erosion control. They still have to kind of get the site organized and strip the topsoil and stuff. So it might go to 5 months, maybe four and a half months. But so I still think it's probably a wash, but it is getting the cost there is certainly coming closer to being a little bit of a premium potentially.
I think you pay a little bit of a premium for the early package. One way is you kind of stuck with, hauling all the material off. If it's all part of the contractor's package, they might be able to find a way to, we might be removing less material, which might be a savings. The benefit in my mind is that if you do have, if you do run into, we put a shovel in the ground and we find the, really bad stuff, which we don't think we're going to, but we run into something that causes a major delay to the project. I think you're in a better position if you have this delay and you have a $500,000 to $1 million site contractor that you're working through this, as opposed to a, $100 million contract with all the subcontractors and filed subcontractors, and they're put on a 3-month delay. They're potentially looking for extended general conditions, escalation costs, all these different things. If that happens, I think you're in a better position. I don't think it's a high likelihood, but that's like the where I think an early release package helps us mitigate risk. But I do think we'll pay a little bit of a premium for doing that, because we're gonna have 2 separate contractors.
Yeah. So it's a lot to think about, but we wanted to bring it forward, and kind of like what we were talking about earlier with the $7,600. I don't know if we want to propose approving contingent on some follow-up meeting, or if we want to just have the follow-up meeting come back. But I think the longer we wait, the harder it's going to be to get that done and keep the early package on schedule, if you will.
Because even right now, if we vote to 113 and are able to move on that testing, we're right up against the bid date, or even close. And because they take so long to do the testing and all this stuff. It takes, what, 9 weeks or some crazy thing. And so it's just a very slow process. We can't, and we've talked to them, they won't speed it up. Well, unless we pay them extra money, even more.
Okay, so, we need to make a decision. It's probably, the proposal on the table is to have the subcommittee of at least Pat and John and anybody else who would want to jump in, meet on it. And potentially have them make the decision, or is 4 weeks too long of a time period?
4 weeks is probably too long. So I would say we'd like to have a meeting with the two of them and anybody else, with the OPM team, the design team, the LSP, the geotech, the civil, did you say you went on civil there as well? Like, just have a meeting of all the minds. It's not necessarily to talk 100% about the testing. It's really to talk about the early package, and if we want to move forward with the early package. And if the answer is that we want to move forward with the early package, then we really need to move forward with the testing. If the answer is we don't feel that the early package, site early package, we'll talk about the other early package in a minute, but the site early package is needed at this time, it gives us more time to understand what we want to do for testing, if anything. Do we want to put that to the contractor? Do we want to write the specifications that the goal within the building is to keep as much soil on site but remove the unsuitable? I think that's kind of where I'm leading myself right now. But
So is the question for the committee is, if we vote on this $113,000 now, and then leave it to a subgroup meeting of at least 2 parties and anyone else who is interested to potentially make that decision at that time. So we could move forward if we decide to do the early package.
That's correct.
If we don't, it doesn't matter. It just, the vote is kind of null and void.
if we don't, we would just come back to you with a more complete plan or a recommendation of how to proceed at that point, yeah.
Go ahead, Jenny.
I have some scheduling concerns about that approach. As it stands, if we approve, if you were to do a screen clear, approve this additional service, and we give our consultant the notice to proceed tomorrow, like we don't have a day to even a day to like.
We wouldn't be able to
make this
start
decision.
the early package at the time we're planning right now.
And then it would be delayed further.
But we will have gone
Mike
through the right
has-
process.
Right.
So if you take a week, here it is. You would be delaying the site package by a couple of weeks if we go through this process, probably. Because if we end up having to do this. What?
Nothing.
You okay?
Go ahead.
What happened?
No. Go ahead.
Well, I mean, there is a schedule.
So let's do,
But it's the right.
you know, if we're gonna do this, then the thought is to have this meeting within the next couple of days, right?
That would be.
That's
ideal.
correct.
Yeah,
Just do it fast.
okay, all right. Any comments from the committee on it?
As long as it's on time and under budget, I don't. The last 45 minutes reminded me of the select board, and I kind of don't like it. So
No?
I'm fine with John and Pat. You know, if they are in agreement with something, it's fine by me.
I'm gonna agree with something that probably Mike goes through on every project is we have these timelines and they do change. Oh, there's a review here. Oh, these people are suing, you know, like whatever it is. And we try to hit the most advantageous timeline, but they do shift quite a bit. And these are the kind of decisions I've seen on just about every project in some fashion. So there's a flexibility that happens here and we have to kind of roll with it. And I appreciate what you're trying to do, get us through it.
We're fine rolling with it. To be honest, it feels a little bit like, why aren't we talking about this in July? The soil's been what the soil's been. And it does feel like there's a bit of a repeat on this project of large numbers coming to us without a lot of,
That's fair.
without a lot of forewarning. So, but I'm all for, I think we have a plan in place. Kirk might have some questions about this that we haven't even got to yet. I'm ready to move on.
I think his questions were very similar to what we talked about. We should definitely maybe run through his, I think he had 4
Yeah,
questions.
Greg has.
I believe Greg has his hand up
Yeah.
too.
Go ahead, Greg.
Yeah, I was just gonna add from a context perspective, I have never been on a project that did not have an LSP and soil pre-characterization. So I think it makes me a little uncomfortable to say we don't think we need it, or we might not need it, or who knows, or let's wait and see. I think, you know, in the interest of time, letting Pat and John evaluate or hear the rationale for or against. But I think the simple answer in my mind is there's got to be a requirement somewhere, whether it's, you know, DEP, whether it's code. I don't know what those triggers are because I've never been involved in that contemplation. But I think the fact that we're sitting here asking and wondering whether or not we should be pre-characterizing soil or not is not a good place to be, considering the timelines and the risk. In my mind, soil, if it's pre-characterized and trucked somewhere, I look at soil the same way I do hazardous material, right? If it's to the point where you have to test it and pre-characterize it and have an LSP and manifest to truck it somewhere, the town owns it. It's the town's, and it's the town's for perpetuity, and whatever landfill or place it goes to, the town's always responsible for it. So I think it's not a casual discussion or casual conversation or a subtle issue. I think we need to very clearly define what the requirements are, what our legal obligations are, and proceed accordingly.
Kirk, did you have something?
One of my main questions was about the impact on schedule, and I think that that everyone has discussed that pretty thoroughly so far. Aside from schedule, I was just interested in how this cost proposal compared to other similar proposals for similar amount of work to be done. So I'll let Mike speak to that, but really it's like everything else. It's impact on schedule and cost were my main concerns.
Yeah, as far as projects, I'd certainly let Jenny and Lee talk about their experience. In my experience, it seems every year there's another regulation or another landfill that's closed down and not accepting soils anymore. So it just seems like these costs are always going up and up on soils. Like I said, when I first came into the business 30 years ago, I worked for a site contractor and never, you know, for the 2 different site contractors I worked for probably 7 years, I never ever considered any of this. You know, other than when we dug and we found an oil tank, then you said, "Oh, we gotta deal with, you know, any contamination around the oil tank." That was really about the extent of what we would get into. But you know, I did a project at Northeastern about a decade ago, and that was right next to the railroad tracks. It was an old railroad station. And it's Boston blue clay and everything, and it had every type of contaminant you could possibly imagine in there. So that was really my first, you know, real foray into getting detailed discussions with LSPs. I actually reached out to the LSP I worked with for about 2 years out there and talked to her a little bit about this project, and not telling her, not from a professional standpoint, but just say, you know, one friend to another, what do you think? And she came back to the whole discussion about the, you know, the naturally occurring versus the urban fill, versus the fill, not urban fill, but versus fill conditions. And I that's, you know, I didn't really connect it until you said it, Pat, but that's really what's driving this. I think if it was all natural soils and it was clean, we might be less, there might be less need, but I think, to Greg's point, it's not a matter of testing or not testing. It's testing into what level of testing you have to do for those fill areas. Yeah.
In my experience, this testing gets done by the contractor when they're getting the stuff off the site. Usually you don't bring all this stuff off the site like we're doing. oftentimes you're doing blasting or something and it costs $3-4 million to do all the blasting. I consider ourselves lucky not to be doing blasting. And let me say that first. Typically, this money would have been in the bid at another time and not been done. And because it's an early package, it's being done. And we would have talked about the testing and the soft costs during construction. And then we would have this discussion during construction. It would be in a change order, you know what I mean? So what we're trying to, by bringing it up front, it looks different because there it is, and we're not even building anything yet, and there's that testing. That's why it looks different now than it would in a year and a half. So, you know, obviously we have to do, it has to, somewhere along the line it has to be done. That's my take, and I really do leave it up to you guys to look where we are. We're still right on track, and to see if we should just do this and see what happens. Is there any way, I'm just gonna ask this one question, that they get halfway through, they haven't tested any of it, that's the problem. It's all or nothing, isn't it?
It's all or nothing if we do the early package. If we don't do the early, we could choose to do a smaller sample size and then.
Yeah, that's what kind of bugs me, is that you can't like do some of it, have it tested while you're still working on it and go, no, there's nothing here, maybe we can back off. You know, but we can't do that. I mean, the geotech person has been very clear with Jenny. She's talked to them, you know, over and over and over about this. So we feel like we're kind of in a bit of a corner, but with Mike's help, we were able to get it down to a much more reasonable number for pre-stripping the site is what we're doing. Clean pre-stripping on the site.
Can I just come back to something I've mentioned several times in the past? It's our job as a committee to listen to the experts and ask what their proposal is, and then if we don't like it, react. If we do like it, so I think really it's up to you, Mike, to be very clear as to what you prefer, what you propose, what you think is right for this job. And then, you know, we can agree or disagree. We probably will agree, but so rather than Pat and I getting too much involved in this, I think you should be very clear as to what you think is the path forward, and we can agree on.
Well, and I think to that point, what I want you to hear is not just from me. I want you to hear maybe directly from the LSP and the civil, and like, so that you hear the full story. I don't want it to be colored by me or colored by Lee or Jenny. I want you to kind of hear it direct from the horse's mouth, if you will. So I think once you hear that, we'll let you ask your questions, and then what we'll do is, at the end of that discussion, I will make a recommendation. I will say, based off of what I'm hearing, this is what I'm thinking. But I do want you to hear from everybody. Like I said, specific, like for the compaction, Majid says you have to take everything out. He's the geotech. Take everything out and do 12-inch lifts. I'm thinking if it's been there for 70 years, it's probably not going to get any tighter. But, you know, I'm not the expert. He is. So, yeah.
I think that's wise. It's a great way to go.
Yeah.
And it's wise.
Yeah.
Let's get it done.
All right. So we'll reach out to Pat and John tomorrow morning to try and, or maybe even right after this, to see what you have for availability, so that we can try and get something scheduled up as soon as possible. What is the desire as far as the testing? Do we want to do a contingent on that? Do we want to?
I'm okay with doing it as a contingent. I don't know if everybody else feels
Yeah.
the same.
Otherwise, you have to wait a month.
Yeah, that's not gonna work.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you need a motion?
Please.
Make a motion to approve the 113,806, is it LBA 19, line 30-210, contingent upon review by John Coop and Pat Tompkins and anybody else, I guess. After discussion with the providers, the subs, I guess is what you want to say, right?
The experts.
Experts, there you
The
go.
professional team.
The professional team,
There
there
you
you go, professional team.
Is there a second?
Second?
Seconded by Pat. Any discussion? Okay, seeing none, we'll go for the vote. Pat?
Yes.
Sean?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Chris stepped out. Kirk?
Yes.
Greg?
Yes.
Nancy?
Yes.
And Carla, yes. And that motion passes.
Thank you, everybody. I know that was a long discussion. We'll try to make the rest of this, we'll breeze through the rest of this, I think. So we have the invoices. We've now approved the complete cleaning, $140, so that one will give us the potential to be able to approve those invoices as well as the LBA, the Colliers, and the GNAP. So I think we had voted a while back that we didn't need to officially vote these, but then I think with the Finance Committee, you did want to vote on them, and just not.
We do.
We do.
We do. I would like them to be voted on with the amounts.
With the amounts,
Yeah.
each one individually.
You can take them as a group if it's like all of the, same vendor, right, LBA or whatever, but,
Okay.
or you could do the invoice number.
So,
for both.
okay, so complete cleaning has 2.
Right. LBA has 4.
Those 4 are actually one invoice. I think
Okay.
Justin may have the total for you on that.
Yeah, LBA's, I had it written down. LBA's total invoice is $484,745 for invoice 22,499.
So moved for acceptance.
Second.
Any discussion? We'll go into the vote. Pat?
Yes.
Sean?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Kirk?
Yes.
Greg?
Yes.
Nancy?
Yes.
Carla? Yes. Okay,
Motion to pay GNAP Architects $1,750. Invoice, is that invoice number 682.29-5?
That's right.
yes. Second?
Second?
Seconded by Pat. Any discussion? Time for the vote. Pat?
Yes.
Sean?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Kirk?
Yes.
Greg?
Yes.
Nancy?
Yes.
And Carla, yes. Okay,
Motion to pay Colliers Project Leaders $30,252.50. Invoice number 1089820.
is there a
Second?
Seconded by Pat. Discussion?
I'm here now, Carla.
Thank you. Okay,
Yeah.
moving to the
Did he
vote.
go home?
I didn't
Pat.
see one.
Yes.
Sean?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Chris?
Yes.
Kirk?
Yes.
Greg?
Yes.
Nancy?
Yes.
And Carla, yes.
And
Okay,
then Complete Cleaning Company for the total amount of $2,740. Invoice numbers 14678 and 14679.
Second?
okay. Any discussion? Going to the vote. Pat?
Yes.
Sean?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Chris?
Yes.
Kirk?
Yes.
Greg?
Yes.
Nancy?
Yes.
And Carla, yes.
I think that's everything for financials, right, Justin? Or
Did we do,
Could you check with
Modular?
DPW if they need any filling?
for 1640, 1,640?
And I think there are some pits.
Yeah.
The complete,
Yeah, I
that's
did
complete cleaning.
Cleaning Company, those are the
That was
Two of
2.
them.
I put those
Okay.
2 together.
Perfect, up there and there. And we did LBAs.
Yes, as a group.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Thank you, Nancy. Okay, schedule.
so.
So I apologize. The schedule that we are going to show now is the same schedule that we've shown in the last couple of meetings. I didn't realize it didn't get dropped into the folder with the rest of the package. So that's on me. I apologize for that, but I can run through real quick, Mike, if you want.
Yeah, sorry, I'm just closing down the, we had a lot of things open there. Number 6. There's one away. Oh. Sorry.
right now, LBA is currently running through, LBA and Colliers are running through the next submission, which would be the 60%. And as far as the deliverables, the MSBA, so there'll be another package, just like we did with DDs. There'll be a 60% CD package that is going to be coming up for approval, I believe in November. And then we'll be starting that 90% CD phase following that 60% CD submission. I believe we have coming up too, this isn't in the schedule, but it's part of the DD submission. There's a meeting next week with the MSBA to go over the review comments for that DD submission, just so it's on everyone's radar. And then we have the two early packages. The first one here is for the switchgear and generator. We had a conversation with another contractor that we're working with today, and Pat, we've discussed this as far as, you know, keeping our finger on the pulse with if it is the right move to go with these early packages, how they're trending as far as switchgear and generator availability. That contractor said that they did see things starting to trend, getting towards more ordering later, but then they went in that direction and found out they're just getting delays with that. So it seems to be trending in the direction of get on top of getting things earlier, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and in that contractor, we actually did an early package with them on another project, and that generator, or that switchgear has now been delayed twice, 1 month each time, but we're still in good shape because we did order it early. If we didn't, we might be a little more concerned, so.
Yeah, exactly. And then we have our early package number 2, which is the earthwork, which we've been discussing with the other amendment, and as far as that meeting that will be following up to this.
Yeah, so I think right now we're leaning towards, or our recommendation is to do early package number 1 for the switchgear. The generator, I think, has gotten a little bit smaller and probably a little bit more readily available. So if it's the committee's desire to do the generator with the switchgear, I think that's fine. If we wanted to do just the switchgear, we could do that as well. But because worst case scenario, if the generator wasn't there, you can always bring a temporary generator and, you know, as needed. But there's no such thing as temporary switchgear. So we need to do the switchgear, and then like we've been talking about the earthwork, we'll talk about that in the next couple of days on the earthwork package.
We have an opinion that we could do.
Any questions on the schedule?
Nope.
So the third thing, it kind of ties into financial and schedule. I provided the package 3 RFPs. One was for the testing, construction testing. That would be testing services, material testing services throughout the entire duration of the project. One would be for a tax consultant, and the other was for
peer review.
Yes, the peer review. So we're required to do a steel code review, but it's been decided to do a few other code and trade peer reviews. So I just grouped them into one. I converted our RFPs to the town of Reading. There are a couple different things where they're overlapped. So Jane, I'd like to get into it on a call with you sometime this week, just to kind of go through how we do the review process that's outlined in these RFPs. So just wanted to kind of bring that to everyone's attention, that these will be coming up soon. And I'm not sure if we have to approve to submit them, but I just wanted to provide to the group so that we can all review.
Yeah, so I think the question here is we provided them. I don't know if people have had a chance to go through them, but if you have any questions, let us know. I think if you see that there's 2 different sections that are kind of referring to the same thing, that's the thing that we need to review with Jane. I think what happened was we had our standard form. We tried to incorporate the Reading standard forms, and there's a little bit of a conflict there. So I think we can work out those details, and we'd like to try and get these moving forward. The material testing, again, if we're doing early package, we're gonna need it sooner than later. If we're not doing an early package, then that can wait a little bit longer. The tax consultant, we feel the sooner we can get them on board, the better for everybody. And then the peer review, again, that's probably less critical as far as the early packaging or things of that nature, but they are going to need to do a review of the 90% documents, which are coming out in about 6 to 8 weeks, and are not coming out. They're going to be starting.
They'll be starting that process. But yeah, you're right. Like, we will need to have the steel peer review as part of the 90% submission to the MSBA.
Yeah. I think we can get on a call possibly tomorrow afternoon. Thursday I'm sort of out of pocket, except for late in the day. So either late on Thursday or tomorrow afternoon, we can find a time. I'll ask Josh to get in touch with you tomorrow, Justin, and we'll schedule something with Katie and myself and Josh.
And we didn't put it in the package because we're still working on it. There will be one more RFP, and that's for the road manager, right?
Yeah. It's early for that, though. I mean,
again,
we're way ahead of time.
We're just trying to get ahead.
I love that about you. I love that.
Thank you.
So on those, I didn't know that the committee, I guess, let me ask you more of a question is, do we want to vote to authorize those to be reviewed with Jane, and once they're ready to be advertised and issued, or do we want to come back to the committee one more time once they're finalized?
I think it's probably okay to go through it now and just approve it now. The tax consultant, we've been talking about having a tax consultant to help us with potential rebates on the other end, especially if it affects design. The code review and construction plan, this also came out from some of our town employees that they wanted some of these code reviews. I kind of pushed back a little bit, and then they were saying, no, this is something we want. So, and then material testing, that's got to happen.
That's always a third-party testing, yeah.
As far as I understand, these are all probably going to be best practices as far as mass procurement, but we can discuss that further.
Yeah, the testing probably might be a little bit higher. The testing will probably be a 6-figure number, but the others will be relatively small, I think.
Does it make sense to, when it's at the point of a recommendation to award, is that a more appropriate time for the committee to make a vote? I don't know if we're contemplating a vote as opposed to now.
Yes, to answer that question, we would definitely bring the proposals that we received and kind of level them out and then present them to the group as far as what we recommend.
As long as you're okay with us, what we're saying is we need to probably advertise in the newspaper, potentially, at least for the testing one, and put it out to public bid, basically. And to your point, Pat, there's no real action until we get the bids back, and then we have to enter into a contract with somebody. But
we're going to start getting, pricing, so we'll get a sense of what the pricing is, and we'll have a better idea. I don't know if we need to establish a different line for these, or if they're covered already.
So we have a specific line for the testing. The tax consultant, I don't know that we had a specific line specifically set, because that's relatively new, and honestly, that might be something once we get somebody on board, or once we have a number, that it might be worth having a conversation with the MSBA, because they're always talking about commissioning and enhanced commissioning and bettering the project. I'd have to think about it a little bit, because the tax consultant might not necessarily be enhancing. It might be just a better way to get some additional funds back for us. I think we can take a look at that, but I think the cost of the tax consultant will certainly be offset by the rebates that we're getting back. And then the final one, the peer review, the structural peer review is required by Mass State Code, and we're being asked to do ADA and fire protection and a couple others, which are, again, not unusual. I've had many districts that have asked for that. Again, you have building inspectors that are kind of stretched to their limits. And
we definitely do. And with 2 projects going right now, there's a sense that, particularly on the part of the fire chief and the acting building commissioner, the interim building commissioner at the that the additional code review will be important to help them with, just the volume of the Killam School project. It's a lot to cover. And, we have a part-time electrical inspector. So it's just, being able to have that bandwidth isn't there. So there's confidence that we're kind of okay on the recal side, I think I'm getting continuous feedback on that, particularly from the fire chief, but for the Killam side, we want to see those additional reviews go forward.
Yeah, and just so everybody understands, we do have professionals on the design team. They're going to stamp these and everything, but it doesn't mean it's not a good idea to have a second set of eyes on it to take a look at it. So, and it's actually, like I said, required on the structural, and it's probably good practices on everything else.
Have you put out any requests on structural peer review yet? I mean,
Well, no, we figured it, kind of economy of scale. If we get firms to do all of them at one time, they're kind of getting to the documents, and I know there might be different people doing structural versus fire protection, say, but they can kind of they still get all the documents all at the same time, and they're reviewing, one report coming back basically.
why that approach? I'm not sure I understand why that approach would be efficient.
Rather than putting out like 4 separate RFPs and getting 4 different sets of groups and potentially having 4 separate contracts, it was just contracting with one vendor that would get them all for us.
Well, there's no one vendor that does everything. That's the problem.
I've had it done on 2 other projects.
Well, we can put it out such that the vendor can bid on a portion of it, or all of it together, and so we can price it that way too.
But just saying, the last firm I worked with doing one of these things, they were kind of like a one-stop shop deal. They could cover all of the items that we are currently looking for. Not that we're going to necessarily go with it, but we will have to analyze the pricing.
Okay. I definitely disagree.
Well, it's just like when you're hiring the designer, it doesn't mean that Lee does all the mechanical and plumbing and everything. He brings somebody else in to do it now.
We think you do
Right.
all.
Yeah.
So you
But if you want to hire an expert, you hire an expert. You don't hire a company that has experts in all kind of different grades, because those experts are really not experts. They're kind of second class, second grade.
Okay.
In my view, my
You're saying
experience.
we should hire with measure.
No, there are other people that a company which says it does code review and ADA and structural. No, those are different people. They have different disciplines, they have different education, they have different backgrounds, they have different skills. And if you want quality, you go for the specialist. Otherwise, you get kind of a bland approach, a kind of a wishy-washy.
We want
In my view.
specific. We want specific, detailed.
I think you need to have people who are experts in a specific part of the industry. Yeah.
So we can use the language in the RFP to delineate that requirement. That's a quality requirement in the procurement.
We definitely have that in there already.
Yeah. Okay. But I think your point's well taken. I agree with you. So we'll look at that.
If we think we need a vote, I'll make a motion. I don't know if we need a vote to move them forward with this.
I guess it's more if anybody has an objection to any of them. Speak now or forever hold your peace. Maybe that's more
I
of
think it
it.
makes sense to move forward with the proposals on all 3 of them,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Second?
Did you want to, I can make a motion if you want to vote.
Yeah, let's just,
I'll make a motion to authorize Colliers to work with town staff to put out the RFPs for the testing and inspection services, the peer reviews, and the tax consultant.
perfect. Seconded by Nancy. Any discussion?
6 Central Street.
Okay,
Okay.
we're moving
All right.
on to the
Remember
vote.
that. I'm
Pat?
familiar with
Yes.
that.
Sean?
Yes.
Chris?
Thanks.
Yes.
Kirk?
Yes.
Greg?
Yes.
Nancy?
Yes,
John?
Sorry, I missed the motion.
The motion is for town staff to work with Colliers and about all those 3.
Yes.
Thank you. And Carla, yes. I
Sorry.
got you, Nancy?
yes,
Okay.
yes.
Cool.
Okay,
Hospital.
perfect. The motion passes.
Everything okay?
Yeah, my wife's got a room.
Oh, that's good.
All right, LBA exterior material review.
Okay.
Do you want to jump straight?
Okay. This meeting has gone a bit longer than I think we anticipated. So we'll make this quick.
I work in the soils. I know.
It's always soil.
It's always the dirt.
Yeah, dirty dirt.
Once you get out of the ground, it's easy though, right?
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Any project,
It's a lot easier.
any little projects.
It's
Some stories I could tell you about how they handle dirty dirt in Revere.
Well, I've been to the beach.
It's a public meeting.
There we go. Okay, so we have met several times with actually over the summer, we formed the Exterior Materials Review Committee, and we met several times with that committee to finalize exterior materials, and we just never came back and shared those decisions with this group. So we thought we were kind of looking for a meeting that would be light on heavy content, and we picked a bad one, it turns out. But we'll kind of go through these materials. So what we have is a palette of durable materials that are attractive and a really good value. So the starting from the top, Anna is showing here that we have kind of an orange brick at the top of the buildings, kind of a purpley brick.
It looks a lot like that.
On the ground floor, and then there's a masonry base that is it's actually a CMU, but it's a ground-based CMU that has quite a nice finish. And we actually have it in a couple different sizes, so it's not that consistent CMU size.
Its job is to look like granite, basically, and it has.
And it'll be
it feels
just
nice too. I mean,
super
it's just the first
durable
couple.
there at the base of the building where you get all the
Beautiful
salt and the
stuff.
dirt and the.
It's pretty straight. You've seen it a million times, but we are actually using larger, slightly larger pieces of it. Like it's called Manchester block, and it costs the same amount, except you have to be very strong to put it in place. But they're actually all going to be the same. They just won't look. They'll look a little more stone-like, I hope, than block. This proportion is like block. This will be like that. So they'll look a little more like stone, I hope, just to make it slabby.
Yeah.
And then we have the wood look phenolic, which is a kind of a resin product with a wood look finish, very durable. That's like on some areas of the facade, and then we just have samples of the window frames, some of the metals on the building.
So all of the windows and the doors are kind of an anodized aluminum, which you guys have all seen before. I mean, what's good about it is it's very natural looking. It's matte color. It's I guess it looks very white, you know, in the sun. It's pretty normal, and you've seen it a million times, but it's very clean. And on the roof edges, this is a metal, but it feels a little more like a warm zinc or something, which you might. So it's really a really simple palette. But you guys helped us, the people on the committee really helped us get to something that was warm. And I especially like at the bottom of the building where the kids are, it's gonna be like that. You know, where when you look at the pictures, you're gonna see this stuff. Which is a little bit.
We can't see what you're doing.
I'm sorry. It's gonna be like this. You know, these panels of this slightly purplish darker brick down low with some brickwork. So when Jenny shows it, right, and she goes in, say goes into there, it's here. Right here.
That's
which
the
is
slabby
like,
portion?
this is the blocks that look like granite blocks in a way, and then some brickwork and these panels and then some more brick work, just goes in and out a little bit, so that these kids are in a different scale here. Because this is a big building, you know, and we're trying to create a little world down here when you're down here. And that band goes around, but it feels, just has a different feeling to it. I think everybody felt it was a little more inviting, you know, to have that. And then sometimes it comes up, and we simplified things, and that the phenolic wood really only happens in certain places as an accent, like a, right, Jenny?
Lee, remind me of those two little metal, one was the window and one.
Yeah,
what
this
was
is
the other?
all of the windows and
Yeah.
doors, so.
And what's the other, the darker
The
one?
darker one is like the metal around the edge of the
That's
top.
way up here,
Gotcha,
Yeah.
gotcha.
which is
Okay.
usually a little darker. And then this is really everything else. Like even this, I think, is gonna be anodized, because you wanted it to be really simple. On the other hand, we do have a couple things we're not showing, like underneath the canopy here is kind of a wood slat look.
I brought that.
You brought that?
Yeah,
It's metal.
it's metal, it's
But it-
wood looking metal.
You've seen it because you
Did we
saw
lose
that
it?
on another school. And the idea is because
different
now when you
than
go into that school, you have that wood ceilings and stuff, which change everything. Did I?
There it is.
Oh. So this is what that looks like?
Yeah.
Oh, this is actually metal. So it'll look like slats
Yeah.
of wood, but it'll be like everything we're trying to do on the outside. Hopefully you won't have to do much maintenance for a long, 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 long time. Because none of it's painted. So that's
Washing the windows.
that's the kind of things we're trying to do, and Jenny, go ahead, and I just wanted to vanihize that. Go ahead.
Thank you. Yeah, so some of the things that we mentioned, we have some textured brickwork just from the bricks going in and out, which adds a lot of richness and texture to the facade. We have these, wherever we have kind of a piece popping out, whether it's the gym roof kind of popping up, or the stair pieces popping out, and those are in that wood color. We have little canopies over the doors that are in that anodized aluminum. And the loading dock area is kind of a series of volumes. The cafeteria volume, which is in that wood phenolic. The kitchen is in the purple brick with more of that texture, which actually kind of makes the brick look darker, even though it's the same color. And then some more of that masonry material, just used a bit more of it.
So that's the granite block, right? The granite looking block?
Yes,
There.
yep.
Yeah. It's a nice looking
Who
building.
did you see as your visual client in this? I mean, it's pretty obvious this is an adult building. Colors are adults. They're not kids. They're not kids' colors. Did you not think the kids deserve some input? I understand from the design team that the teachers didn't want this to look like a kids' building. Is that true?
I'm going to say it a slightly different way. We think a lot about the children and, you know, how their scale and those kinds of things, and what they're touching and safety and all of that. The outside of a building like this tends to belong to the whole community. This is a big building. And so when we met with the committee, architects and other people on them, I think they recognized that, and we had some colors, you know, we had like different colors and things like that. I think it typically comes down to this thing like pull back, let it be a building, let it be a public building, and then let and the warmth and stuff like that. And then when you go inside the building, let it really become kid environment. And when we show you in next month, once again, show you the interior, it is a different world. And certain things come in, like the wood ceilings and things like that. But on the outside of the building, I think we were asked to do a building that felt like it was for the whole community. People driving by, people coming by. Your building now doesn't have, you know, if you look at your elementary schools now, they don't. We propose some colors, and if that's what you're asking.
Yeah, that's what I'm asking.
And we were asked to reconsider that and to tone it down, thinking that it might look, sometimes things like that in a few years on the outside could start to look dated, the colors and I can understand that as a community. I personally will do anything that people ask me, you know what I mean, and do it really well. I think if this was a genre, you know, like of a school, this is a public school that has some playfulness and has some, has a difference in like the massing and the pieces and the materials. But people wanted it to feel like from the outside, like it was natural materials. Stone, wood, metal, brick, you know what I mean? Like those just really base materials from the outside.
They did, I would say that they did bring a lot of color to the outside of the building. And I know me personally, I said I didn't really care for it because I knew that the playground being in the front of the building was gonna have a lot of different colors too. And I didn't want that as part of the building.
Yeah, that's what Nancy said.
Yeah.
You know, I was surprised. I thought you'd be a bit more kid-centric, but.
It's interesting. I've done so many of this, and I mean, we do care deeply about it. I think sometimes when you're in a city and it's a little more like graffiti-esque, you know, you see a little more color and all that. When you get in more like a town, suburb, you know, things get a little more, on the outside, they do get a little more staid.
Yeah, within neighborhood schools, right?
Especially neighborhoods, they don't really want something, but what I would say is this. We really focused on creating spaces on the outside like that canopy, and that really draws you in. And really focused on it having different like buildings in it. So if you look at that picture right there, there's the auditorium, which is like the wood, you know, cafeteria. And that's along the scale of the houses a little more. And then you have like the middle part, which is the brick, and that's a different part of the building. And it could have gone in many different ways. But I think that at least, you know, you guys were able to come up with a palette that wasn't too, that they were afraid of. It's a terrible responsibility to build a big building that everyone can see in the world on a street, and then have somebody in 10 years look at it and go, oh, I don't like that at all. And that's the worst part about being an actual architect. It would be easier to do the inside in the walls. The inside of this building is very joyful. So we're gonna have a meeting tomorrow just to show everybody the very latest. When we show you that, you'll see that there is a transformation that happens when you walk in. And I really think, I don't really believe in inside outside so much, but I do believe that is where it starts to become a kid place.
Okay.
That's my best to describe why we are where we are. And also because, once again, we listen. Because there are architects who come in, I believe, and they do whatever the heck, and they try to convince you to do things that you don't want to do. I don't think, Pat, you would have let us do that anyway. Well, I mean, who knows? Anyway.
Nancy wouldn't let you do that. Nancy, give me great colors.
I think the exterior is elegant, and I think it'll be very well detailed. Like durable and well detailed. When you go up to it, it won't look, what I care is that you really get the sense that this is good construction and solid building and gonna last.
I just hope the entrance looks less like going into a Walmart than into Aladdin's cave. So where the transition is between adult outside and kids inside, I hope the entrance is that transition and it's not.
Well, it's interesting. So we do, I'm the same as you. When you go to the front, that entrance, there is this whole thing where it's that wood ceiling and that you can't, you know, the arcade and then the canopy coming out and grabbing you. That wood comes into the building, into the large vestibule area where you come in,
and then comes into where the lobby is and ends there, and says here, you know, it kind of brings you right through.
Prepared to be wowed.
Mhm.
I'm
Well,
prepared to be wowed.
The reason I say that is because
Well-
it's a transition, it's bringing you through and you're inside, outside during that time.
I know, but I'm serious, you know.
Yeah, no, it's,
It could look like a Walmart, but you're going in and I hate that.
we spent a lot of time in that lobby.
I think
Because
it's
that was
pretty
the most,
classy.
yeah, it was the most important.
I don't want classy, I want fun.
It is, and it's, and,
Whimsy.
by the way, also,
Whimsy.
the facilities people are also involved in all of those because we don't want to have materials that they can't.
Yeah, I love gargoyles.
You carve them.
From literature.
You carve them, that's what I
Hey,
meant.
the buildings people go and see in Europe, they all have gargoyles. Did you realize that? You know, nobody goes to see a building. Sorry, God.
So gargoyles is the.
Gargoyles
I
is
like
what I need, yeah.
All right, thank you for that question.
I know.
It's a good question.
Okay.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you, Jenny.
Okay, moving on to approval of prior meeting minutes for our September 8th meeting. I think I had one. One thing. Who's controlling this? You, Josh?
Josh.
Josh, go to the right to the beginning for me. Okay, keep going down, please. Okay, right, I'm there. 1, 2, 3, fourth line down, approximately 2 hours and focus solely on the WMS project. Is that Whitman, potentially?
That probably is a typo from that, yeah.
Yeah. So this is about CPDC, a meeting, right? The hearing lasted approximately 2 hours and focused solely on the, on our project,
Oh,
ASPC.
I think, yeah, that's just a typo.
Yeah.
As far as Harani doing minutes, but yep.
Yeah.
Gonna make it go, Nancy?
Yep, I'll make a move to approve the minutes dated 2025-9-8 as amended.
Second.
Seconded by Pat. Any discussion? Going to the vote, Pat,
Yes.
Sean,
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Chris?
Yes.
Kirk?
Yes.
Greg?
Yes.
Nancy?
Yes.
Carla, yes.
That was an enthusiastic yes by Greg.
Future agenda items and next meeting date. So our next meeting is Wednesday, November 12th, because of town meeting that week. We want to keep that meeting moving and short because we'll have a long week. And then the next one after that, we move that to December 15th. Any other items people would like on the next agenda? If you have anything, just email me, please. Okay, thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
I'm glad you're here.
And we go right to the vote. Pat?
Yes.
Sean?
I'll give you a.
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Chris?
Catch up on.
Yes.
Kirk?
Yes.
Greg?
An enthusiastic yes.
Nancy?
Yes.
And Carly, yes. We're adjourned. Thanks, everyone.
You.